Happy National Unicorn Day. Did you know? Did you know it was? You probably did not know that it was National Unicorn Day. Yeah. Now, I've got a real tricky question as this live stream starts, and we're going to be looking at a country that is filled with mystical things. And even the name of the company of this manufacturer of this sewing machine that belongs to Jackie has kind of a mystical flavor, doesn't it? Because Janome means what? Do you guys know what Janome means? It doesn't mean unicorn, I'll tell you that much. Nope, doesn't mean unicorn. So, good morning, Emma. Howdy, howdy. I love the unicorn with the good morning. That's totally cool. Yeah, yeah. A lot of folks probably don't know that, and I just did a number of posts on Facebook in relation to this Janome, and this Janome is model 731. If you want to look a little bit more into it, it's less than 2 years old, and Janome does mean eye of the snake. I have no idea why they picked that particular name to describe their sewing machine company, but they did. And they came on the scene in the 1920s. I posted all this on Facebook. So we recently had a chance to look at a cool contemporary machine made by Juki. You guys remember that one, the Platinum Edition. And now we're looking at another contemporary machine, the Janome Model 731. And I'll tell you this, that a lot of companies, we've been calling them out for years. We've been calling them out for years and wondering whether or not our message of bring your quality standards up has been falling on deaf ears. You know, you really wonder, these big companies, especially when they're moved out of the US and they start making machines in the Philippines or Vietnam or Thailand or wherever they make them, you really wonder if they care. Do they really care what Americans think about the machines that are being imported into our country and sold as if they are the original? Janome, again, reaches all the way back to the 1920s. Juki, who I just showed you a really cool machine just recently, they only reach back to the 1940s, right in conjunction with World War II and all that stuff. But it seems like slowly but surely, as our small army, our movement of vintage sewing machine enthusiasts continues to bang our drum, that the manufacturers are slow but sure starting to listen a little bit. They're starting to pay attention because they realize that a number of our vintage sewing machine enthusiasts also, for whatever reason, own some of the newer machines made by Husqvarna, made by Elna, made by Janome, made by Juki. And they're like, we can't totally ignore them because, yeah, they're raising their pom-poms for the vintage machines, but they're also buying our newer ones for some of the decorative ornamental stitching or maybe for long arm quilting or whatever it is. And we got to pay attention. Now, this Janome, I'll just say it honestly. Well, let me instead of saying it, let me ask you guys a question. You guys know that the Juki that I showed you recently, the Juki, the really cool kind of the industrial looking Juki that you'll see it on the channel if you missed it somehow. But you know that my customer ended up buying that machine when everything was said and done for right around $2,000. This is a Janome Model 731. It's not nearly in that class. I'm just going to say that honestly. It's not nearly in that class of the machine of the Juki that we just saw. But there's a lot of great things about this machine, and I'm going to try to show some of them to you and also demonstrate its sewing ability on everything from 100% cotton to a variety of different leathers as well. And again, dispelling the myth that you can't sew leather on a contemporary machine. You got to manage it a little bit differently. You can't go quite as extreme, but you can still sew leather with these contemporary quilting style machines. So what I was getting back to is, what do you think this machine retailed for? Again, it's less than 2 years old. It's less than 2 years old. And what brought it to the workshop is the clutch kept slipping on it, which would seem to be a simple problem, but it really isn't on this model. They ended up that little clutch retainer that I've shown you guys before. It looks like a little metal clip with little fins sticking out. They ended up manufacturing the adjoining piece and the clutch so that they don't fit snugly enough. So as someone is sewing with this machine heavy duty, it has a tendency to release the clutch, and then it's almost like popping a car into neutral. You're spinning and the needle isn't moving. And when you're trying to quilt and do other things, that can be ridiculously frustrating, can't it? So I was able to come up with a solution that was satisfactory to the customer to eliminate that problem. The other thing that was happening is when the customer was trying to rotate the balance wheel to raise the needle up after sewing a line of stitches or whatever, because this particular Janome, again, not quite being in the class that Juki was, it doesn't have a button you can hit for a needle up on this. You got to do it the old fashioned way. You got to rotate it manually. So when she was trying to turn the balance wheel, it would turn freely for, about a little bit less than a quarter of a turn. And then it was like you were wrestling a hog. I mean, it was binding up and it just wouldn't turn freely. You really had to force it. And she was puzzled. I was puzzled initially until I started tearing the machine apart and looking at it and discovered it was something very simple. I mean, it wasn't simple to undo it. It took probably about close to 40 minutes, to be absolutely honest with you, because I wanted to make sure that I didn't leave anything behind. But right up here near the take-up arm on the inside, as this customer was operating the machine, somehow a web work of thread had gotten into the pivot points of that take-up arm and the other faceplate components, and it was just choking the machine. I mean, when you tried to turn it, it was like, I'm not going to turn, because that thread was binding it. And after I was able to slowly, using tweezers, dental tools, and and also, if that ever happens to you, let me kind of bounce around a little bit here. If you ever get thread kind of that gets wrapped around and get caught into those little crevices or those pivot points on a sewing machine, whether it's a Janome or something else, just realize that the first thing you want to do is you want to lubricate that thread with some sewing machine oil, because that thread has probably, as the machine operator has been continuing to use it, that thread has been continuing to spin around with the mechanical parts of that take-up arm and the other adjoining pieces, and it's been wicking. Oh, I just killed the unicorn. That was horrible. Sorry about that, buddy. It was wicking all that moisture that might have been on the thread initially, and then it becomes real stiff, and it kind of almost starts to cement itself in place. So the first thing you want to do is lubricate it with some machine oil once you identify where it's at, where it's stuck, and then you can slowly start to unravel it. And you'll obviously want to be turning the balance wheel to the rear, the opposite direction of the machine operating, so you can free that thread up and then get it out of there. And if you ever get in a real sticky situation where you've done your very best, you don't want to have to take the pieces of the take-up arm apart, because that can be a little bit tricky in recalibrating them back into place again. And you've gotten all the thread out of there that you can. The other thing you can do, assuming that all the surrounding area where that thread is metal, is you can also use a torch like this, and you can basically just burn up the thread that's caught in that crevice area that you can't get out. You just turn it on, and then you can use a brush or something like that to get the remnants out of there. That's the last resort. The ideal situation is to lubricate it with a little bit of machine oil and then to work it free, again, by turning the balance wheel the opposite way it would be operating, so you can kind of unwind it strand by strand. Thankfully, I didn't have to use the torch on this machine, but there have been some other machines in the past where I've had to do that. So back to this Janome, which I said is not quite in the class of the Juki machine that the customer, after financing it, paid about $2,000 for. What do you think a Janome Model 5, excuse me, a Model 731? What do you think a Janome Model 731 retails for? Again, this machine is less than 2 years old. Just throw some guesses out. Again, there's no judgment in the classroom. If you want to step out of the shadows and just throw a couple guesses out as to what do you think a Janome like this, I'll kind of show you the front of it. What would this machine retail for? And I can tell you that Jackie bought it from my friends at Joanne. I used to always say Joanne Fabrics, but I guess they dropped the fabrics because now they've got such a huge selection of crafty related items. They don't want to just be thought of as a sewing store anymore. They want to be thought of as a mega crafting store. So now they're just going by Joanne's. And you remember when we recently did the Willy Wonka fundraiser for the Oconto Area Humane Society, raising about $6,400. And those are all under a playlist. If you want to kind of check that out and see me dressed up as a quasi Willy Wonka, you can check that out on the channel under the playlist of the fundraiser for the Humane Society. But with that particular, I totally lost my train of thought. I totally lost it. I don't know where I was going with that. Emma is saying about $500. Any other guesses on the value of this? Where the heck was I going with that thought? I didn't get much sleep last night. I had kind of a restless night, so I'm operating a little bit on fumes right now, and that's not an excuse, but it is. It is a little bit of an excuse. And especially not to be at 100% on National Unicorn Day. What is that about? I should be 100% on National Unicorn Day. So Emma isn't, since no one else is jumping out, Emma is not horribly far off. The customer said that this machine retailed for a little bit less than $600. So about $100 more than what Emma had guessed as far as the price of this machine. But she had a coupon that the folks at Joann's let her use, and she got the machine for a heck of a deal. She got it for about 50% off. So she ended up paying right around $250 to $300 for this Janome Model 731. You know, that's not bad considering, you know, the options that this machine offers. And you can see some of the stitches I've already done to verify things, you know, as far as adjustments and tension balances and everything after I got done with the servicing of the machine. And we're going to be restitching a number of these patterns that this machine can generate during this live stream. And plus, one of the big motivators for Jackie to get this machine was that with the machine kind of as a goodie inside of the box, she was able to get a hold of a fairly decent walking foot. You can kind of see it in there in the shot. And she really, really, really wanted to get a walking foot for this machine because as she's working with quilting and other things where she's got multiple layers, she just really wanted to have a way of making sure that the feed of that material, those layers of material, was a little bit more even and a little bit more consistent. And the walking foot generally does a really good job of that. The other option, if you ever want to check it out, and I've got some in the workshop that work with a variety of different machines, including the Husqvarnas, you can also pick up a roller foot as well. And roller foots are a great solution if you're wanting to have just a little bit more navigational ability. Let's say you're doing some sort of embellishments or you're doing applique work or whatever, and you want to be able to feed the material or the layers evenly, but you want to be able to make some turns and corners a little bit more easily. Generally, not always, generally, the roller foot's going to give you a little bit more ease of navigation than the walking foot, because the walking foot is going to be really gripping and kind of feeding and creating that flow of material underneath a number of different tooth style grippers that are going to kind of work their way over that material and push it through underneath that attachment. So just another thought: if you ever come across a roller foot, and you just have to make sure that it's going to fit your presser foot bar appropriately. All presser foot bars have slightly different widths and depths and also contours. And, just double check it when you put it on. If you get one, make sure that it's going to affix itself to that presser foot bar real nicely, and that it's not going to work its way loose. You got to really snug these puppies down. I don't snug a walking foot like this down by hand, even though I've got relatively strong hands. I use that little groove that they have in that attachment screw, and I use a screwdriver and I crank it down nice and firm so that it's on there. It's on there and it's not going to work its way loose. So yeah, the big motivator for Jackie, the thing that really got her excited about getting this Janome, was they offered some goodies. And again, who knows, maybe our little channel, our little group somehow influenced them, because I'll talk about putting goodies in with machines that I service and machines that I prepare for customers from my personal collection, and I'll add goodies to it, little enticement, little fun things. And, I don't know, maybe Janome was listening. Maybe they weren't. I have no idea. But Jackie really loves this walking foot, and I enjoyed sewing with it as well. And you'll enjoy watching it work as we're doing various sew-offs today. And again, we're going to be sewing primarily cotton as we go through all of the stitch options for this machine. And I'll show folks that are, either looking to acquire a Janome or might have one and aren't quite comfortable using it. I'll show you how to make the different changes and adjustments, which are really easy on this machine. Also, as I took the machine apart to do a deep cleaning and a servicing and do the adjustments on it, I also replaced Jackie's old incandescent bulb. You can kind of see it through that little plastic bag. It really wasn't doing a real good job of lighting up that needle area and the rest of the bed. Also, because the housing on this machine is plastic, it was getting that plastic pretty doggone hot. It's almost surprising to believe that a little 15-watt incandescent bulb can generate that much heat, but it really can't. So I replaced it with one of our LED bulbs, and it's much, much brighter and generates a substantial less amount of heat, so that as we're moving into the summer months now and Jackie is leaning over this machine and doing her work, it's not going to be pushing all that heat up into her face like the old bulb would have been doing. Okay, so let me walk you around the machine a little bit. And again, if you're joining the live stream a little bit late, it is National Unicorn Day today. So I had to get my little friend out and wish a happy National Unicorn Day. And believe it or not, as I was buzzing around Oconto this morning, some of the business owners that I've become friends with, I sometimes will just drop fun little things off to them, just because it's a small community, it's a small town, and it's just to say, hey, I was thinking about you. And I had to stop by my friends at Bay Impressions. Laurel is the owner of that. They do all the printing. They printed the certificates for the bricks that we had as incentives to donate to the History Museum in South Bend, Indiana. They printed some of the materials that I needed for the Willy Wonka campaign, and they've helped me print a number of other things, business cards, you name it. So I had to stop by because Laurel's business partner, the one that helps her so much, Carly, just not too long ago had a little baby boy. And this little baby boy, oh, good morning to Paula. Good morning, Paula. This little baby boy is just a cutie pie, and he's too small still for these. These are recommended for kids that are probably like 3 to 5 years old, something like that. And he's still just a little guy. But I said to Carly, I said, it's National Unicorn Day. Hold this for your little guy until he's old enough to safely play with it. And you can kind of put it up on his dresser or something like that. So I got a little bit of a trivia question for the folks that are in the live chat right now, and I had a bunch of trivia questions. I was going to ask all of you on unicorns. Unicorns are fascinating, not just a mythical creature, but also a real animal that walks the earth. They're very hard to spot because they usually like to be in deep, thick, wooded areas, and they're very elusive. I mean, you seldom get to see them, but they really are real creatures too. And I was curious because we talk about a flock of birds, we talk about a herd of buffalo, and there's all kinds of terms when we have a large number of common creatures gathered together. Does anyone know what you would call a large group, should there ever be so, a large group of unicorns? What do you call them? And if you have to Google it, then Google it. But if you just know, I will be so utterly impressed because I had no idea what you call a large group of unicorns. What do you guys think? Any guesses? Any guesses? A large group of unicorns? Come on, somebody be courageous. Somebody be courageous and step out there and just throw out a term. What do you call a large group or a group of unicorns? Oh, David, you're a hoot. David types in there a hallucination. I love you too, brother. David's awesome. So I can't quite see what hard, what is that? Heard something. Emma, you had like a bazillion answers that you typed up. I don't know which one to accept. I might have to ask Paula to like throw you into the penalty box if you keep text bombing us in this live chat. I'm just overwhelmed. I'm overwhelmed. Ah! Holy mackerel, he just crashed. So you do call a large group. What is it? Is this a unipeg? It's labeled on the box as a unicorn. It's labeled on the box as a unicorn. This is called a unipeg. Is it a unipeg because it has the wings, right? Because the average unicorn is not going to have wings. Hold on a second. I'm going to ask Paula as a former operation nurse to teleport herself to the workshop. Paula, would you assist me? Teleport yourself to the workshop. We're going to do some quick surgery on this unipeg and make it a genuine unicorn. Because I agree, unicorns don't have wings. Pegasus do. So quick surgery. Paula is going to use her superpowers from Florida and teleport herself because she retired as an operatory nurse. She was in the in the operation room with the doctors. It's a very prestigious position to have as a nurse to get to that level. So Paula just arrived. Give us a second here. Paula just arrived. Okay, yep, I already scrubbed up. I scrubbed up already. Okay. Oh, wow, I didn't know you could do that. That was really talent. You know, I would have totally failed at that had Paula not showed up to help me out. And she did it. We did even fully anesthetize this little creature. And look at that. Yeah. No more unipeg. Now we have a genuine unicorn on National Unicorn Day. Yeah. Yeah, we do. Thanks, Paula. Thank you. All right. I'm going to move our little unicorn buddy to the back. And without any more blah, blah, blahing, let me walk you around this machine a little bit. Well, you know what? That's why God gave us super glue, Paula. David, David is very witty. I'm liking David a lot. He goes, call it a, call it, what did he call it? Hold on a second. Call it uh, a pegacorn. Call it a pegacorn. Yeah, we're making up new terms. And guess what? When Webster's dictionary does their next major edition of new words, some of our words might make it in. They might just make it in. You never know, right? You never know. Oh my gosh, we have way too much fun. This should almost be illegal. If we were in a different country, they probably would be busting into the workshop right now saying, "Enough laughing, no more laughing." But at any rate, let me walk you around this machine. Again, this is the Janome model 731. Retails for right around $600. Right around 600 bucks this retailed for. And again, this machine is less than 2 years old. Less than 2 years old. And again, the customer got a heck of a deal on it. So the basic lay of the land here, it's a pretty simple machine to operate. I think it is anyway. On the left side of the machine, you've got the on-off switch right here. Kind of see that, sort of. Yeah, there it is. And this machine is wired where when the power is off, unlike I showed you on that other machine recently, when the power is off like that, you can push on the foot controller all day long and the machine will do nothing. So it's hot wired directly to the motor with this switch. If you don't have this on, you're not going to be going anywhere. Then we've got our reverse right here on the front of the machine, conveniently located. Here we've got our stitch length controller. And this also allows us to access the special stitches as well. And the special stitches are going to be the ones that are pretty much from D all the way to H. D to H, I think, is pretty much going to be our specialty stitches. And then up here, we've got our stitch selector, so we can choose which of these stitches up here we want to be sewing. So you just turn it and you get to that stitch setting, boom, you're done. And depending on the stitch you're doing, like some of these basic stitches, D, E, F, G, H, and I think it B and C as well. I didn't play around with this machine a lot because this is the workhorse for this customer, and Jackie wants it back straight away. So I didn't play with this machine quite as much, but I believe the basic stitches are you can manipulate this stitch length down here and shorten them up. That's kind of what I did on those sew-offs that I showed you at the beginning of this live stream. These right here. And I'm not a huge fan of black thread. I just don't like it. As we get older, seeing reds and seeing black is a little bit harder, isn't it? It is for me. So as I was working with this thread, I sometimes would be like, did I sweep it back already? Underneath the walking foot. But it's just a real easy. And then if you want to do some free motion type quilting, look down here, this little lever right here, you can just slide it and then you can drop the feed dogs. And also because this is set up as what kind of hook system do you think this model 731 has? What kind of hook system based on what you're seeing in there? Anyone want to guess as to the hook system on this Janome model 731? No one's reacting in the chat since Paula and I did surgery on this little unicorn, and we took the unicorn's wings off, so it was no longer a blend of a unicorn and a Pegasus. And everybody's still in shock over that. That number one, they're in shock that Paula has the superpower to be able to teleport herself to the workshop, and then they're shocked that actually on the live stream we performed surgery on that little unicorn. We really did, but he's okay. Look at, he's happy back there. He's happy. David is saying, David and Emma are saying a rotary hook. Janome's kind of slick, aren't they? They're kind of slick. This is actually an oscillating hook. And the difference between the two, not to insult anyone's intelligence, because you guys are the smartest students and fellow teachers on the planet. You just are. A rotary hook is going to go like this, full circle, just like a wheel turning on a car. An oscillating hook is going to act like a pendulum, and it's going to rock back and forth like this as it's catching the thread and completing the sewing process. The great thing about oscillating hooks, and Janome probably knew this, is oscillating hooks, because they don't go that full rotation, they're able to manage heavier threads and trickier threads much easier than most rotary hook systems. So if you're looking to do a lot of sewing with, say, nylon thread, or you're going to be looking to sew with upholstery thread or heavier gauge type threads, get yourself a machine, preferably vintage, that has an oscillating hook system instead of the rotary hook system. Rotary hook systems tend not to like the trickier, nastier threads. They just don't. So yeah, this has an oscillating hook system. Yeah. What else can I tell you about this machine? I'll keep it real basic and high level. That's about it. Unless you're winding a bobbin, this has a similar setup to a lot of the machines that we've looked at. You disengage the clutch if you're going to be using this as a winding mechanism, and then you engage this. You go from basically the spool back here to over here, and then you're going to be coming straight back to the bobbin again. But again, it depends on how you wind your bobbins. Some people use external bobbin winders too for a lot of these contemporary machines, especially if they're going to be going through a lot of thread. So kind of up to the owner on that. Okay, that's enough blah, blah, blah. Let's actually put this machine to work. And I might have to adjust my camera angle because this faceplate sticks down so far. When I come over here with the camera, I guess we can barely see it. If I go like that, we can kind of see. I'd like to go from this angle if I can, because I want you to see that walking foot doing its magic. And I also didn't mention this has an auto needle threader. I never use these things. I never do. But it's possible that the owner does. And it does work. So, all right. So let's do this. Let's go ahead. Let me set this up for a basic straight stitch. We're going to do a basic straight stitch like we want to sew this this genuine elk hide. It's about 4 to 5 ounces of leather thickness. Let me kind of put the camera down, and then this camera will be able to focus on it, hopefully. So this is what we're going to sew first. It's about the thickness of a belt. It's not light stuff at all. And a lot of people would say, hey, wait a second, Scott. We looked at those progress shots that you put up on Facebook. You just did it this morning while you were sipping coffee. But we're really motivated. And as soon as you pop up pictures showing one of the machines that you're working on, we're all over it. And we saw that there's a lot of plastic in this Janome Model 731. Can you still get away with sewing leather of this thickness? Yes, you can, as long as you maintain the machine really well. And I would say you probably wouldn't want to make it a leather sewing machine. I'll just say that honestly. You could do that with the Juki machine that I showed on this channel recently. But on this one, if you have to occasionally sew leather, you can get away with it with this machine. But again, there are a lot of worm gears on the top of the machine that are plastic. And so you wouldn't want to do it as an everyday thing with this machine. But we're going to do it as a one-off during this live stream, just so you can see that this machine has enough grit and power now to get the job done. Now, along the lines of grit and power, how big of a motor do you think this Janome Model 731 has? How big of a motor? And the last question is, where was this Janome made? Where was it made? And while you're guessing that, I'm going to put on a little bit more music that has kind of a Japanese flavor, because Janome does have Japanese roots going all the way back to the 1920s when they rolled out their first domestic machines and they started distributing them worldwide. So while you're guessing what size motor, where was this particular Janome made, I'll put on a little bit more Japanese style music, and then we're gonna sew with this machine so you can listen to it operate. And this is called Imperial Forces. Imperial Forces. Kind of a cool song. Oh, welcome to Joel. Hey, Joel. Oh, yeah. You talked about that. Paula talked about acquiring that machine dirt cheap, and then she donated it. So that's kind of cool. Nice job. I agree, Emma. There are folks that will definitely use an auto needle threader or a manual one in this instance, where you kind of rotate it down as our eyes become a little bit more aged, right? Yeah, and they sell Joel from California is saying I could use a good needle threader for the sewing machine. Um, they sell aftermarket now, but they look almost identical. The needle threaders that you used to see, and I don't know if I could find one straight away. I might not be able to find one readily, but these needle threaders are really quite nice. And you guys know my friend Richard, that volunteers at the Humane Society here in Oconto, and I also showed a couple little video clips of him, and we were walking together, I believe it was, and actually when we did the fundraiser for the Oconto Humane Society, Oconto Area Humane Society, I better get that right, or I'll get a note from one of the board members saying I called it wrong. So I also showed him walking that pit bull. You guys remember that when we did that fundraiser for the Oconto Area Humane Society? Richard and I were walking that pit bull, and almost immediately after we posted that video, that dog was adopted along with the other one as well, the other pit bull. So that was kind of cool. But I got him a bunch of those needle threaders because he's probably going into his 80s. And he was like, I just can't see it anymore. And they're available on eBay and other places like that. I think you guys know it's got that little wire on it. It's got that little wire. I don't know if I can find any of these or not to show you. Yeah, I did. I just found them. Cool. And if someone wants to take the time to send me a note, including my friend Joel, if someone wants to send me a note after this live stream, I would be happy to mail one of these to you, one or two of them. They look like that. They look like the original vintage ones with that little wire on the top. It almost looks like a diamond or something, doesn't it? But these work really well, and you can use them, you can reuse them, you can use them again to thread the needle. It makes it much easier. Richard said it saved his life. He said, I was getting ready to jump off, and he lives on the first floor, by the way, in a senior living type community. He says, I was getting ready to jump off the ledge. Well, that wouldn't have done anything, but he just said it was really frustrating to him in seeing that needle to get that thread in. And these really worked really nice for him. So if anybody wants one of these, if anybody wants me to mail one of these to them, reach out to me, send me a text on my cell phone, send me a note through Facebook Messenger, send me a smoke signal, whatever you want to do, including my friend Joel, and I'll mail one or two of these to you, and you can try them out. And if you decide you love them, because they do break after using them, they do break after a period of time. You can always go onto eBay, and I can even send you the link. You can go onto eBay and you can pick up these. You can get like 10 of them for a ridiculously low price. They're not expensive. They're not expensive at all. So that's why I'm saying anyone that reaches out, I'll be happy to drop one or two of these in the mail to you, and you can put them to work in your sewing projects to make your life easier. Yeah, make your life easier. So I'll leave that up to you guys. If you want to reach out, I'll be happy to drop them in the mail. And if I get a huge response, I'll probably have to order more of these. But you get a bag of them when you order them on eBay, and apparently that's the order number that they attach to it from eBay when I ordered these originally for Richard. I've never used them, but he loves them, and I'm guessing that they are pretty easy to use. You just kind of slide them through the needle, drop your thread through, and then pull it back, and boom, you're threaded. So yeah, there you go. Oh, wait a second. I was trying to read. Those needle threaders are handy when threading textured fibers through needles. Nice. Okay, and back to the questions that I threw out there because I never really acknowledged. Emma was the only one that jumped out there and wrote down some answers. And she said, I think it's made in Thailand, and I think it's 0.7 amps. Well, you're absolutely right on the amperage of the motor. The amperage of the motor for this Janome Model 731 is rated at 0.7 amps. Again, when machines are made in other countries and those motors are manufactured in other countries and they give them a certain amperage rating, maybe sometimes they're pretty close, but sometimes they can be way off as well. And that's particularly true of the motors that are being made now as replacements that are rated at 1.5 amps, but they put out less than this machine would, quite honestly. So just be cautious of that. If you have to buy an aftermarket motor to replace a motor that you have, whether it's for a more contemporary model like this or whether it's for a vintage model, just realize that the amperage rating is not always 100% accurate. So Emma had a great guess on the motor, and she nailed it. Oh, I apologize, Paula. Yeah. I'm sorry. You guys, you're absolutely right. Emma guessed the place of origin for the manufacturing of this machine. Paula put down the amperage, and she did put down 7 amps, which would be wow. That would be like a servo motor, but it was just a matter of not putting a decimal point. I knew what the writer meant. I just misassociated it with Emma instead of with Paula. So Paula, you are absolutely spot on. This machine is rated at zero point 0.7 amps. And you know what? It seems to be, as I was going through the machine and I examined the motor and I also did some servicing on the motor as well, it seems to be a pretty decent motor. It's not nearly the motor that would be in that Juki machine that I showed you recently, but it's a real decent motor for what Jackie needs this machine for. And Jackie, this may surprise you or maybe it won't, but Jackie refers to this machine as her workhorse. And she and I will chat a little bit when she comes to the workshop. She's going to be coming to the workshop in about less than 2 hours to get this machine. Less than 2 hours. She's driving in. I think she's coming in about 2 hours or something like that from wherever she is. Trying to remember. Hey, what is 715 area code? Could someone Google it for me real quick? 715 area code. That's the area code that Jackie's coming in from. Is that Michigan? I have no idea. I have no idea. I wished her safe travels, so she might be driving. I have no idea where she's coming in from. So finally, before I go totally bouncing all over the place, this machine was not made in Thailand. It was made in Taiwan. Is there a difference? As I'm throwing like a litany of questions at you guys, is Thailand and Taiwan, are they basically the same? Does anyone know? Do we have any geography experts in the live chat right now or in the live stream? What is the difference between Taiwan and Thailand? Anything? Emma's saying Wisconsin. So somewhere in Wisconsin. I know they had to plan the trip. So they're traveling a good distance. A couple hours, I think. They're very different. God bless David. David knows something about geography. I know how to get from here to the post office in Oconto and it's less than a quarter of a mile. So, although I did drive all the way down to the History Museum, I drive out to meet customers out in Crivets and other more distant places from the workshop. But thank God for GPS. So, Thailand and Taiwan are very different. And David even capitalized Very. So he's like, Scott, bro, they're very different. They're very different. So, so Emma guessed Thailand as far as the origin place for the manufacturing. It's actually Taiwan. So this machine was made in Taiwan. Janome again has roots originally in Japan, starting around the 1920s for domestic sewing machines. They started actually earlier than Juki, almost 2 decades earlier than Juki in manufacturing domestic-based sewing machines. So that's kind of cool. And see, Joel also, this is what I say to folks all the time. Once in a while, I don't always, once in a while, I will interact with some folks and they don't know me from Adam. I don't think they do. They don't know about our channel and they don't know that I've been doing this for over 2 decades. And I'll interact with some people on Facebook. And sometimes I'll offer advice, just kind of whatever. Sometimes folks are receptive to it. Sometimes you've got the sewing savants in the circle, and they'll right away will dismiss anything that anyone writes, not knowing anything about that individual offering advice. But I always say in our live streams and premieres that the folks that are looking at live chat right now, I'm kind of pointing the camera at it. Look at that live chat. And also look over here at the folks that are in the live stream. You can kind of see that right now. The folks that join this classroom are the smartest people on the internet when it comes to vintage sewing machines and sewing machines in general. They just are. And that's evidenced. By David and Joel. And then Joel went on to write, Thailand is on the Indonesian peninsula. And then she also wrote, Taiwan is an island off of the mainland China. See that? I was probably distracted. Let me just confess something to you guys, because we're family, right? I was distracted by the cute girls when they were teaching geography and I was in school. And I was sometimes passing notes, and sometimes we'd get away with it. Sometimes we'd get caught. But I should have been paying attention to geography, because then I would know what David and Joel know. But I don't. But thank God they're in the classroom and they can help us out, right? So yeah, again, blah, 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 blah. This machine was made in Taiwan, and 0.7 amps on the motor, the Janome model 731. So with all of that, let's finally actually put it to use. Let's set it up for sewing. You know by this little reference chart right here that if we want to do a straight stitch, we need to set the stitch selector on B, which I've already done. We're on B right there. You can kind of see that. There it is. And then I have to decide what stitch length do I want. I love long stitches, don't you? So I'm going to set it all the way on 4. I'm going to set it on 4. Let's try sewing this genuine elk hide and see how this machine does. And you can also watch this. Look, I'm too far down. There we go. You can also watch this walking foot do its little dance, which is kind of fun, right? And let me tell you the setup on this machine. I didn't even tell you about the setup on this machine. Okay, press your foot down. There we go. The setup on this machine is I am back to one of my old faithful Schmetz size 90 universal needles. I'm back to my old faithful Schmetz size 90 14 universal needles. The thread is a different story. The thread that that Jackie has on the machine, and she wanted me to leave that thread on the machine when I was getting it set up for her, is made by, we don't hardly need to introduce Gutermann, do we? Gutermann, it's a Gutermann thread, 100% polyester. I don't know the weight of it, but it's a little bit heavier on the weight. I know that from when I was trying to untangle it from all of the mechanized pieces near the faceplate on this machine, which was causing the balance wheel to jam up. So it's a heavier thread, probably if I were guessing around 40 weight, probably maybe even 50 weight. So it's in the range of being really it's almost an upholstery type thread. It's a heavier thread by Gutermann. Yeah, blah 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 blah. All right. So let's try it. Let's see what this machine does. I'm going to make sure, because right now you can see my take-up arm is way down here. You can kind of look through there and see the take-up arm. I'm going to adjust this so that the take-up arm is at the highest position. Always the best way to launch with any sewing machine. And you rotate it to a point where it's almost on that, hold on a second. It's almost on that downstroke. So if you've ever been working with a sewing machine, whatever it is, contemporary or vintage, if you've ever been working with a sewing machine and you're like, this thing just doesn't launch well, it might be because that take-up arm is at a lower position when you're launching. I'm trying to find my other thread. Oh, that's really short. So that thing doesn't get sucked down. Hold on just a second here. That's really, really short. There we go. I usually have a tail of about 4 inches, maybe almost 5 inches. I'm just a rebel when it comes to having thread tails. Okay, almost got it. Hold on a second. All right, finally got it. So take-up arms at the highest position. It's just getting ready to rock down. See that? It's just getting ready to rock down. That's where you want to start when you're sewing. And I realize for quilters, you're right in the middle of something. Sometimes you don't have that luxury, but it's great. It's great to try to do that. So, all right, let's launch into this first sew off. And we'll see how this Janome does. Again, it's got a lot of plastic. It is a belt-driven machine, but it's gotten a big dose of the workshop magic. So hopefully it does a good job for us. Let's give it a try. All right, here we go. Well, that was like, did we actually just sew it? We just did it, right? Because that was like way too easy. No hand start. It just, whatever, man. Whatever. Let's do it. Yeah, I think I'm off the leather if I go down one more stroke, so we'll stop there. So yeah, no problem at all. I think for occasional leather sewing with this Janome. Again, we're not using a leather needle right now. And I've got it adjusted to manage this polyester thread for mainly cotton sewing. So our stitch presentation may not be absolutely bang on because I don't have it adjusted right now for doing leather, but I wanted to sew leather anyway. So we'll take a look at these stitches, see what we think. And then we'll move on to some cotton sewing because I want to show you really this machine in the applications that the customer is most likely to be using it in. That's really what a premier is about. Yeah, not too bad. Again, it's not adjusted for leather sewing right now, so we'll just kind of take a peek at these stitches and generally see what we think. And black thread for me, maybe not for you, but black thread is generally a little bit hard for me to see. Kind of turn it to the side, it might almost be easier. But that 0.7 amp motor had no difficulty getting through this fairly thick piece of genuine elk hide whatsoever. Again, no hand start. So I'm looking at the backside now. It's got a little bit of a nap to it, but the backside is telling me right away that if we were going to be applying this machine towards leather sewing on a more regular basis, we would have to bump up that upper tension because right now we don't have the grandest of lock stitch. We're not getting any bird nesting, so it's not that far off. But for leather sewing, to get a more even lock stitch on this machine for leather sewing, There's our thicker nap. Yeah, it's not a bad looking stitch. You can kind of look at it right there from the edge. Because our nap on this elkite does mask part of the stitch as you're moving through it. Because again, when they cut leather like this, they're cutting through the hide and they don't always cut with even thicknesses, even on the same regional area. It can vary. So all in all, we're getting a fairly decent lock stitch. Here it's a little bit harder to see because of the nap being varied. Come on, camera. Come on, we're waiting for you. We're waiting for you, camera. I'll turn this light on, see if that helps. Oh, come on. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. You were focusing just a second ago. What are you on break or something? So at any rate, the machine is not set up to do leather sewing right now. I set it up for the customer because she's a quilter and that's pretty much what she's going to be using it for. But it did a decent job. Again, we're using a non-leather universal Schmetz needle. It did a decent job of giving us some good stitch presentation on the top stitch in particular. You kind of see that from the edge. And the lock stitch, all in all, is decent. But again, I would bump up the upper tension if we were going to be sewing leather more regularly on this Janome model 731. But again, not a light sew off. And for a lot of people, maybe a little bit of a surprise because you're looking at sewing a level of leather that's pretty doggone tough on a contemporary machine that most people would not think could handle leather at all. But we just demonstrated in this live stream, we can sew through even a thick piece of genuine elkite like this, no hand start whatsoever, just the bare grit of the machine, and lay down some page 34 stitching on the top stitch and some near page 34 stitching on the lock stitch. The lock stitch is not bad again, but I'm just looking at it from a standpoint that the tension would have to be adjusted ever so slightly, just like the camera will have to be adjusted ever so slightly. I'll just lay it down. The camera would have to be adjusted ever so slightly to give us even better presentation of that stitch. But all in all, a decent job. That's our lock stitch again that we're looking at right there. And all in all, this Janome model 731 managed to sew off very, very well. Because again, I've got the machine adjusted right now, not to sew leather like this, but to do quilting for this customer. And again, the top stitch is also, I think, brag-worthy as we kind of look at it one last time, and then I'll throw it to the back, laying down some decent looking stitching here as well. And again, we could just as easily put a leather sewing needle in here and even raise the bar higher as far as the quality of that stitching, but it did a really good job. So this goes to the back now, and now we're going to finally put this machine to use as I've set it up to do for the customer. We're going to be sewing 100% cotton, and we're going to be starting with a basic straight stitch. We're going to probably do this this 3-point zigzag, which I always love sewing that stitch. I think it's really cool. We'll go through the blind hem region here. We've got a couple of different blind hem options. 1, 2, 3. We've got this little mountain one. We've got this ticky-tacky one. And then we'll then on the D, E, G, H, we'll be using the specialty setting on this machine to execute those last 4 stitches. So let's do that. Let's do it. So I'm going to jump into a basic straight stitch. We're already set up for that. I don't have to do a thing. We'll just get this 100% cotton into position. Almost. There we go. So yeah, if you've never used a walking foot before, you can kind of see how this thing works as it's doing its magic going through these different stitches. And we're going to be doing short stitch rows just because I've got a lot of stitching to do on this. And then I can also leave part of that open for the customer, can't I? So let's get that into position right there. Lower down the presser foot. And we'll do a basic straight stitch. I'll probably go through all of the stitches and then we'll look at them. We'll put them on the stitch display thing and we'll look at all of them in totality. after we're done. So straight stitch to begin with, 100% cotton. This is not the Kona cotton that Paula sent me at Christmas time. This is a basic, like kind of like a fat quarter, average type of 100% cotton. So it's not glory cotton, but it's good cotton. All right, so let's raise that take-up arm all the way up. There we go. And let's buzz off with this. So watch that walking foot do its magic as we go through this. And I'll try to slow it down a little bit so you can see the motion of this walking foot as it's doing its thing. Okay, here we go. So you kind of see it kind of pulls. It's got these little teeth on the bottom and it kind of pulls it through to give that even distribution and even flow for that stitching. That's a beautiful top stitch. I'll see how that balance looks as far as the lock stitch. I don't have the upper tension. I calibrated this to give a little bit more range to the customer when she's working with all those layers of quilting and quilt bedding and everything. So we don't have the upper tension turned up super high right now. I'll show you where we have it set right now. Yep, top stitch, lock stitch, both look outstanding. That's what we just sewed off right now. And you'll be able to see a little bit better if I kind of put it on an angle. We'll do that at the end. But the tension setting right now, we're right around 4 out of a possibility of 9, I believe, is the high number on this. Yeah, that's our upper tension right here. Right now we're set on 4, and we could bump it up much, much higher if we needed to. But we really don't need to at this point. Is that focusing in on? I can't see if you're actually seeing that. On my little laptop screen, it doesn't look like it's focusing very clear. It's probably focusing on the reflection because I polished the machine. At any rate, it's set on 4. You'll just have to take my word on that. Let's go to the next stitch. What are we going to do next? Why don't we do the 3-point zigzag next? This one right here. Yeah, that's what's happening. Look at that reflection. Because when a machine comes in, again, you're not going to get this at a sewing vac. You're not going to get this at an average sewing center. I actually polished the machine up, and right now that sucker is so reflective, the camera's getting confused a little bit as far as what to focus on. Yeah, it is. So we're going to do this 3-point zigzag next. I'm going to adjust our stitch selector to D. Kind of come all the way around to there to D. There we go. Now it's happy. Sort of happy. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust my stitch length down a little bit because I want to tighten that stitch pattern up. So I'm going to go down to right around a 2. So let's see what this 3-point zigzag looks like with a stitch length setting of 2. Yeah, let's check this out. And now all of a sudden the camera is going, golly darn, that LED light is goofing around with us. Let's move it over to here, see if that helps. Can you guys see that on your end, that waving down the screen? That's what happens when the camera gets confused and it kind of diffuses its focus with the LED light. It's so much brighter than an incandescent. And it wasn't doing that before, which is kind of irritating, isn't it? There we go. We kind of bypassed it now a little bit. Oh, there we're back. All right, I'm going to leave it alone. There, we kind of got it now, don't we? All right, David, take care. So let's do this 3-point zigzag now. Again, our setup is a 9014 Schmetz Universal needle. We're sewing with Gutermann 100% polyester thread, which is so much nicer than that Italian thread we recently sewed with on that featherweight for Julie from Rhinelander. That stuff, I'm not a fan of Italian 100%. Apparently it's like an Egyptian cotton or something like that. I think it's just a bunch of hoopla. And then they're giving it, to digress, as I talk about that recent premiere I did with the featherweight, they're giving it a rating of 50 weight. And yet when you draw the thread out after you do a stitch row, the thread breaks. I'm not buying it. I think the Italians have a different way of measuring weight when it comes to thread. Yeah, they do. All right. enough ranting about the Italian thread. All right, 3-point zigzag. Let's check this puppy out. Here we go. And watch that walking foot again kind of do its magic a little bit. Here we go. Kind of slowing it down. So if you've never used a walking foot before, and it may seem almost ridiculous to suggest that someone hasn't tried a walking foot, but a lot of people haven't. They go with a standard universal foot that comes with most machines when you buy them, and that's kind of what they stick with. Maybe they've tried a roller foot, but they haven't gone to a walking foot, and it's kind of liberating because it does such a great job. You don't even need to use those clamps to hold the material in place. It generally does a much better job of keeping that even feed factor when you're trying to move that material through, especially the lighter ones like cotton and silks and satins. The only thing you have to watch is, depending on the teeth style that are set up on the walking foot you're using, some of them come with plastic teeth, some of them come with metal teeth, and it might damage your material if you're dealing with some of the more delicate ones. You just have to be mindful of that as you're working with it. All right, so there's our 3-point zigzag. You can kind of see it in the shot. Kind of getting my thread ready here. There we go. Presser foot lever is down. And now we're going to be adjusting to the next stitch that I want to do. We're going to be doing a variety of different, what I would call blind hem style stitching. You can kind of see it there if the camera decides it wants to be nice and focused on the E, F, and G. E, F, and G. We're going to go through that series of blind hems. And it's hard to tell by the images, but it could be anything from a standard blind hem to a stretch blind hem. And we're going to be doing all three of them, E, F, G. So we got to adjust this to E now. We're going to shorten up our stitch length even a little bit more. We're going from 2 to probably about 1 and 1.75, right about there. You kind of see that. And now we're going to be executing the first of 3, what I'll call blind hem stitch style stitches. These right here, E, F, and G. E, F, and G. So that's not too bad. I'm getting a little bit of that rolling across the screen, but not quite as bad as it was doing before. I've got it pointed way down to try to eliminate that a little bit, because I'm sure that's probably, if you're seeing the same thing I am, where it almost looks like little lines rolling down the screen, that's irritating and distracting to me. It's got to be irritating and distracting to you. There we go. That's not too bad now. All right, so let's do this first blind hem. Again, it's going to be letter E. If you've got a model 731 like Jackie does, this is going to kind of show you what that looks like. All right, let's give it a go. Here we go. And again, let me make sure my take-up arm is at the highest position. It is not. There we go. All right, let's give this a go. And I'll try to keep it relatively slow on this first stitch row so you can see the action of that walking foot. And again, Janome threw this walking foot in with the box of goodies when she bought the machine new as an enticement. And it certainly worked for her. Here we go. It's almost kind of hard to take it slow. It's just, this machine has a lot of get up and go now. A lot of get up and go. That's a fun stitch, isn't it? Can you kind of see that off in the distance? That's our first of 3 blind hem style stitching. Let's do a couple more. Let's do the other 2. We got 2 more to do. Again, I'll just give you a quick little peek. This, let's see, get this orientated right. This is our top stitch for the stitches we've done thus far. I don't know why is it that light there that's doing it? Or is it this light? I shut off all of my auxiliary lights, and that seems to have been what's messing with the camera. I thought it was the machine LED light. I was wrong. It was these two lights right here, this one and this one, that were shining down and causing the camera to diffuse when it was trying to focus. So we've done our straight, we've done our 3-point zigzag, we've done our first of 3 blind hem stitches now. We look at the other side, no difference. Good looking stitching, very good looking stitching. So let's do the other ones now. And I'm going to leave those lights off because apparently that was causing us trouble, wasn't it? Those are pretty bright lights, so I could see where it would be confusing the camera just a little bit. All right, let's get it set up for the next one. So this is our second of 3 blind hems. Our first one is E. Our next one is F that we're doing right now. And then finally we'll do G. You can kind of look at the difference in the style of them. And I'm pretty happy with the size of that. As you look at those, I'm pretty happy with that. But I want to tighten it up even a little bit more. So we're going to make this even a little bit shorter. We're going to take it down to about 1.5 now. Right about there. Take it down to 1.5. Let's see what that looks like with this next blind hem stitch option that we've got. That seems to be the best, and now it's doing it again. Ah! And it is that, I was right, it is that light. See, if I cover the light a little bit with my hand, there's none of that waving across the screen, but then as soon as I take my hand away, so it is the LED light. And again, because of the way this Janome is wired, I don't have the option of shutting that LED light off. Otherwise, we won't be sewing. We'll be turning the balance wheel. So anyway, we'll deal with it. We'll deal with it. We're tough. All right, here's our next blind hem stitch option on this machine. Again, if you got a Janome 731, it's going to be option F as in Foxtrot. Option F as in Foxtrot. Here we go. And this one I'm going to sew a little bit quicker just so you can see the machine has get up and go as well. I've been trying to manage it slowly, but I'll give it a little bit more get up and go, and you can kind of see this walking foot working at a quicker pace. Here we go. And I don't know what you can hear on your end, but it's also a smooth running machine. It's not clanky. It doesn't sound plasticky, even though it does have a number of plastic worm gear components that are comprised as part of the main shaft driving system for the machine. It does a decent job, and the overall construction quality of it is quite good for a machine that was made less than 2 years ago. And that's again where some of the manufacturers, I think, are stepping up their game a little bit, and they're realizing that planned obsolescence and making the machine in such a way that it's going to fail very, very early on, and folks are forced to replace that machine. You know, that disposable machine mindset that we've talked about on this channel before with a lot of the contemporary makers. Companies like Janome and certainly Juki are no longer embracing that based on the machines that I've had the chance to actually have in the workshop. They're taking it a little bit more seriously, aren't they? So you can kind of see those stitches from here, where hopefully that waving goes away a little bit. That's what we've sewn so far. Now we're going to do that last blind hem stitch G. There it is. Blind hem stitch G, and we'll see what we think of that one. So we got to turn it a couple more clicks, and we'll leave the stitch length exactly where we have it, right at about 1.5. All right, let's give this a go. Let's give this one a go. See what we think of this. G, yep, got everything set up perfectly. All right, let's go for this next one. Here we go. And I'll slow this one down again so you can see the action of the walking foot doing its dance. Here we go. And that's the one we just did right there. They all look a little bit different. These two are most similar, but it just gives you an idea of depending on which, they don't give you just one like most machine manufacturers. Janome gives you three choices as far as that blind hem. So it's kind of cool. And when you're, the only thing I didn't mention as far as setup that I probably should is down here is your bobbin case. And when you're setting up this machine to sew, and you can see it has kind of a class 15 style bobbin case, doesn't it, with that little finger on top. You want to make sure that that thread is, as that thread is being pulled out and you're looking at the back of that spool before you insert it, you want to make sure that that thread is turning counterclockwise, not clockwise, if that helps you as far as orientating it. Otherwise, it's going to give you a little bit of a headache. And then again, this is really, with this oscillating hook system, you flip these two little black fins back right here, and you're able to remove that hook system and do some good detailed cleaning if you're working with fabrics that are creating a lot more lint. This is a very, very friendly raceway system to service regularly. And the good thing about its design is you can even get a lot of that lint out without taking the top cover off that goes over the feed dogs. This one right here. Yeah. All right. So we've done all of these stitches so far. Let me show them to you. And then we'll move into some of the other cool ornamental style stitches that I would call. This again, our top stitches is what we sewed. And if you can't see it from this angle, I can see it. That straight stitch is absolutely spot on. The formation, the spacing is outstanding. If I do it like that, you probably can see it a little bit better in the absence of that silly light. And our lock stitch, no difference. Oh, I got to cut that other thread. Our lock stitch is also absolutely spot on. Page 34. It's got to be those LED lights above. It just doesn't like them. Yeah. Ugh, I hate that. I hate that. All right. Let me clip that thread, clip those threads, and we'll jump into some of the other specialty type stitches that this machine can do as well. I got to be aware of my time. It's going on noon here. And again, the customer's going to arrive at 1. And sometimes customers, when they're a little bit anxious to get a machine back that they refer to as their workhorse machine, she might show up early. That would be cool, though. I'd put her on camera and you could meet her. That'd be kind of fun. All right, our next stitch. We've done all of the blind hem stitches. Now we're going to do stitch H. I call it the mountain stitch, stitch H. But you might call it something totally different. That reflection is a hoot, isn't it? I like to polish machines. I'm a real clean, tidy person. And when a machine comes in, I can't let it leave the workshop without shining it up. I think there's others like that too. Are there others that you're not a clean freak, but you like things tidy? You know what I mean? You just do. All right, so let's do stitch H next. This one right here. I didn't know what name you would give this stitch. You might give it a totally different name, but I call it kind of the mountain stitch. Looks like valley and mountain, valley, mountain, valley, mountain, valley, mountain, valley, mountain, that sort of thing. Let's do that one now. This is our H. We're going to leave our stitch length the same as we have it, 1.5. Let's go over and check this one out. Let's check this one out. See if that works better if I go like on this angle over here. That's really annoying. You guys are probably saying, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I'm worrying about it. I'm like, ah. All right. I guess I'll just have to leave it the way it is. Let me see if this one, shutting this one off helps. I'm still getting it. Even when I shut that other light off, it still does it. The heck? All right, we'll leave it like this. I shut off the big light above. Maybe that'll help. Maybe that'll help. Oh yeah, Joel is talking about drop-in bobbins, which are classic with a number of machines, particularly the Singer ones, the Slantomatics and others like that, and 99s. Drop-in bobbins are really nice. Paul is becoming a technician, and that's totally cool. You know, it really depends on the lighting system, doesn't it? If I shut off the machine right now, look at those stitches. If I shut off the machine right now, and I shut this light off that's right above the camera. So it may be like Paula is suggesting, as Paula is suggesting, it might be a Hertz issue. That's a little bit out of my wheelhouse, but it really comes down to the way that the light comes out of this. Again, it's kind of an open cavity. It's kind of an open cavity right here coming out of this space right here. And with that LED light in there, when you're shooting the camera is trying to adjust and diffuse that light. It's trying to adjust and diffuse that light and get a proper autofocus on the stitching that we're looking at. And when that light all of a sudden starts to flood that area that it's trying to focus on, you can see right now we're not getting any of that waviness. There's no diffusement issue because the camera is able to focus on this space very evenly. As soon as we turn the machine on, you know, for sewing purposes, the LED light is the only way to go. Less heat, more light, it's brilliant. You don't need any auxiliary lighting. But when you're trying to shoot a live stream using this particular camera, and this is a real good quality camera that I'm working with now, the camera struggles, doesn't it? As soon as I flip that switch, wait for it, 3, 2, 1. See, there it is. So the camera is bothered by the diffusement of that light that's coming in right from there. I kind of block it a little bit, kind of block that light. All of a sudden, she's happy. She's happy. Of course, I can't sew like this because I'll end up bloodying my hand with a knee bar. And then Paula will have to teleport here again as a nurse and give me triage and treatment. So it's just something we have to kind of live with right now, at least. Something we have to kind of live with, unfortunately. But I'd be glad to look at other options, you know, to make it more viable. And certainly whenever I've got the option to shut the light off on the machine, then I can eliminate it pretty much altogether. So I'm turning the light really bright on the camera now, seeing if I can somehow diffuse it a little bit. It might help. All right, let's just move forward. The heck with it. The heck with it. We're not going to be stopped by some light diffusement problem, blah, 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 blah. All right, let's just do this. Let's do it. All right, we're doing this next one. This is the mountain one that I was talking about. All right, let's give this a go. Now, I'm going to ask the audience, do you want me to show you this walking foot behind going fast, or should I stitch this line kind of managing the speed, metering it down, taking it nice and slow so you can see the motion, the flow of that walking foot? Should we blast it or should I hold it back? Just type in the live chat if you would, blast it or nice and slow or something like that, so I know how fast we should do this next one. Come on, somebody jump in. Should we go fast or slow with this next one? Emma's saying slow. Does anybody want to challenge her? And want to say, blast it, pedal to the metal, buddy, pedal to the metal. Ah! All right, I'll do it slow. Nice and slow. Here we go. Oh, hey, Susie. Welcome to Susie from Minnesota. Susie's saying slow. Joelle is saying fast. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start out fast and then I'll slow it down. Start out fast, slow it down. Here we go. I kind of mixed it up a little bit. I want to take care of all of you, make you happy. And then I even hand turned it at the end. That's kind of cool. So we kind of went up and down, but this, let's just say this machine has to get up and go if you want it. You kind of see we just did a little mountain thing right there. Yeah. All right. So other than light diffusement that we're battling, this machine is doing a great job, and it doesn't care about the light. It doesn't care. It's just saying, well, do your little video thing, whatever. I'm going to stitch away because my owner is coming to get me. My owner, Jackie, is going to be here any minute now. And you better not be late, Scott. You better not be late. Oh, it's fun, isn't it? So these are the ones we've done thus far. And again, it's black thread is hard for me to see a little bit. But it's a beautiful, beautiful stitch. It really is. Top and lock stitch. Absolutely bang on. That's our lock. That's our top right there. All right, let's continue. Let's continue. Now we can get it. Finally, we can get into some of the specialty stitches. Those are fun. I like specialty ones because it really gives you a chance to see that machine doing all of its dance. And when you get into certain specialty stitches, if you've wondered when you're using a machine, if you've wondered using a machine and you're doing a specialty type stitch, how is it generating that stitch pattern? Is it strictly a process of natural feed of the feed dogs and the needle? Not really. It's a process called tri-motion. Tri-motion means that as that stitch pattern is being executed, those feed dogs are rapidly going back in a certain succession and then jumping forward and then going neutral just with average feed and then going back and then going forward. The feed dogs are just going crazy in conjunction with that needle swing to generate that pattern. That's kind of what we're going to be doing now, which is kind of fun. We're going to be doing pattern B, but we're going to be doing it under the specialty setting. So I was wrong when I said D, E, G, H, because actually the specialty stuff starts all the way by B, because otherwise all we would have is a straight stitch like we started with. So I sit corrected. Our specialty stuff starts with B, C, D, E, G, H. Yeah. So B first. Let's go back to B. And again, whenever you're changing your stitch pattern knob like this, make sure your needle is clear of the material. Make sure your needle is clear of the material. Otherwise, that needle is moving and you're going to bend it. So we're going to B, right? Yeah, we're going to B. Okay, we're finally on B. But if we don't adjust this stitch length right here, we're on B, but if we don't adjust the stitch length, all we're going to get is a straight stitch that's really, really short at about a 1.5 length setting. We've got to adjust this knob to the SS setting over here. And then we got a little bit of a tolerance in the middle of it. I went the wrong way. We got to go all the way over to here to the specialty stitching setting here. And you can adjust the look of that specialty stitch by going plus or minus. Shorter, longer, shorter, longer, shorter, longer, shorter, longer, shorter, longer. We're just going to leave it right in the middle. I'm going to play it safe. So the first stitch we're going to try to do What would you guys call this stitch right here, this B stitch? See that right there, that one? Wait, now you see it. What would you call that B stitch? Is that a ticky-tacky or a ricky-ticky or something like that? It's got a weird name if we're going to use the proper name. Let me get my finger out of the way. Is it focusing? I can't tell. I shouldn't have polished this machine. Shame on me. Don't polish the machine, Scott. Don't polish. We're looking at that one right there once it decides to focus. Oh, we were almost there. We were almost there. Get really close. There it is, at last. So that B one is the one we're going to do. It looks like 3 little rows, row, 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 like row your boat. What would you call that stitch? That now we had it there for a second. Now it's going away again. There it is. Any names for that B stitch? The 3 little rows, looks like row, row, row. All right, I'm going to go back there. So we got it all set up for that. Let's do that stitch now while you guys are deciding if you want to come up with a fun name for it. Yeah. Let me back this up even further, see if that helps with that diffusement factor. See if that helps. Now we're like a country mile away and it's no better. So I'm going to shut that light off again. Let's try it over there. I'm going to maneuver this thing around a little bit, see if we can get a better angle. Yeah, it's not working. All right, we're just going to sew because I can't eliminate what that LED light is doing. That LED light is just goofing it up. See that? Yeah. All right, let's just move forward. Let's move forward. Paula's calling it a stretch stitch. I'll buy that. Yeah. Let's see what this stretch stitch looks like then. Stepping stones. I like that too. Samples you provided for Scott. Oh, you're talking about the Kona cotton samples. Yeah, those are brilliant. Those are super cool. All right, we're just going to move forward. We can't do anything about the diffusement. It's just right at the right angle where it's messing with the camera. So we'll just keep going forward. Keep going forward. Okay, here goes our stretch stitch or our stepping stones, as Emma called it. Stepping stones is fun too. Let's check this one out. And watch for that tri motion as we move into these specialty stitches. You'll see the material getting move back, move forward, move forward. It's getting jostled all over the place. Here we go. That's tri-motion. See how those feed dogs are manipulating it to execute that stitch. And I don't know if that would be considered a stretch stitch or not, but it's definitely an overlay stitch. It would be an incredibly strong stitch from a sewing standpoint for maintaining, something in place. It's never going to move ever. Yeah, it's kind of a cool stitch. I like it. You can definitely see the darkness of that black thread when you sew that stitch. That's for darn sure. See that? Those are beautiful stitches, aren't they? They really are lovely. There we go. So again, if you're joining the live stream a little bit late, we kind of started over here. We did a basic straight. We did a 3-point zigzag. We did 3 different types of blind hem stitches. We did the mountain type stitch that I call it here. And then we just did this stretch or this stepping stone stitch right here, where it almost looks like an overemphasized, kind of like if you were on your computer and you clicked italics or you clicked bold or you clicked both, and you took a normal straight stitch and you gave it a kind of a flashy, brighter, darker look. You know what I mean? Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of cool. Kind of cool. I like it. Me likes. All right, let's do the next one. Let me get this back underneath the presser foot. We'll do this next one. And I don't know where my bobbin thread is at right now. This machine will run with a class 15 metal bobbin like this, but the customer had a plastic bobbin in there, which isn't going to hold quite as much thread. So hopefully I don't run out of bobbin thread. But if I do, we'll know really quick, won't we? We'll know really quick. Hey, you ran out of bobbin thread. Yeah, I did. I did. See if that's a little bit better. Not really. Okay, we're going to do this next one now. See, I wish I could just sew and hold my hand right there. I'm going to hold my hand right there and sew, because then look at that. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. All right, let's do the next one. The next one we're going to do is letter C over here. Now, that's a really weird one. I don't know what you would call that one. Letter C. So we got to change our stitch selector, kind of change it like this, to letter C on the specialty stitch. I have no idea what we're going to get, you guys. I didn't stitch this one. I think I skipped over C and I went to D. Pretty sure I did. So we'll see what we get. This will be pretty freaky. It's going to be pretty freaky, folks. Here we go. Yeah, we got those waves. We can't get rid of them. The weather's looking like it's going to be a stormy weather now with those waves going across. Here we go. And I'm gonna just kind of go on average speed. What did Emma call it? A spira spin or something like that. This is almost like the old time TV when you would get, they used to call it snow when your reception was crummy and you get that like waving across the screen as you were trying to watch a TV program. This is like a vintage experience of shooting a live stream is what it is. Now we're going to do it from back here. We're going long distance, you guys, because I'm far enough back the camera's happy and you guys aren't going to go blind. You're not going to go blind now, thank God. All right, let's do it from back here. I like to get close so you guys can see everything, but it's not going to work with this machine. You could still see it, right? You could still see it. Yeah. Okay, good. Let's do this next pattern. And I don't know what's going to be generated because I didn't do this one when I got done servicing the machine and repairing it. Well, okay, here we go. Let's live dangerous. Trying to go even here. I'm trying to go even. Okay, now here, Joelle. Joelle likes speed. She's a California girl. Speed it up, Scott. Speed it up. Yep, there we go. Let's see what we got. Oh, that's a fun one, isn't it? We got a little bit of an anomaly right there. One thread. I had one anomaly, probably where I was going like turbo speed, to see if I can, maybe I'll stitch that again. Yeah, I goofed that one up. I had a little bit of a weird thread out of alignment issue down there. Maybe I could stitch that again, but we'll go through all of them. Then if we have room, we'll do this one at the end again. Let's see. Yeah, this one's goofy looking. This one's goofy looking. Ah. Okay, so now we know what it is. It's kind of it's the same as the straight stitch with that extra overlay factor. Oops. It's that same as that straight stitch, but it's got an extra overlay factor to it. Really a heavy stitch, isn't it? That could be like a mending stitch, but you'd have to make it a lot more narrow, wouldn't you? But it's kind of cool. Kind of cool. Yeah, I like it. I like it. It's kind of a neat stitch. I like the dark factor of it. It kind of darkens, it really gives emphasis to it, doesn't it? But again, I don't know what you'd call it. It kind of looks like a poor man's zigzag where you go over the same thing like 4 or 5 times. This Janome does a really good job of stitching, though, doesn't it? Really beautiful. Janome model 731. 731. Let's go to the next pattern. Let's go to the next one. We're going to keep our distance again so that this camera is hopefully happy. Hopefully happy. Paula. Paula, let it go. Let it go. It's only this machine. This Janome is going home, and Jackie's not going to be filming. No, I appreciate you looking into it. Send it to me by text or by Facebook Messenger. I'll look at it. And I know that there's programs you can download for these cameras. This is the camera I'm using right now, just so you guys know what camera I have. It's not a cheapy camera. And you know, it's appropriate to be using this camera because it almost has kind of a Japanese Asian look to it, doesn't it? But this is called a Kaio broadcasting camera with illumination camera, telefocus. I can't even read all that. Oh, telediffusion. Oh my gosh, that's way too much information. But this is the camera I'm using right now. I was using a different style before. And this is supposed to be, from a rating standpoint and from reviews, it's called a Razor as well. It's like one of the best cameras for doing live streaming. But the only thing they don't take into account with the autofocus, the diffusion that it has built into it and all that, is the idea that you're going to be in real, with our work, you guys, and I like to show it to you up close, right? I like to show it to you up close. We can't deal with necessarily the diffusion issue that comes from a super bright LED bulb that this camera is trying to manage that automatic illumination diffusion factor with. Right now, we're a good distance back. See if I go right over there. See, we're getting a little bit of that waviness right there. As I back it off, it becomes less and less and less because it's able to focus. It's able to focus past this super bright LED light that's kind of diffusing. This camera has like all kinds of automatic things built into it. It's got autofocus, it's got auto illumination, auto diffusement, blah 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 blah. And this LED light is just messing with it. It's messing with it. It's a bully. It's a bully light that I put in here. Yeah, it is. So, all right. So we did that other one we just did. We did this other one right here. C. Now we're going to move on to D, which is, I think we called this a bird foot stitch before, didn't we? This one here, kind of a bird footy stitch. So that's what we're going to do next. We're going to go over to D. We'll leave it on specialty setting. I'm going to go a little bit on the shorter side with this one. Just one click. I'm not going to be a rebel. One click towards the negative on the specialty sewing stitch option. Where am I? There I am. All right, let's give this one a try. Let's give this one a try next. And I'm going to back this up just so we don't have to deal with that diffusement of the light issue. Yeah, that makes it worse when that light is on. I'm going to leave that light off. So we're only working with the light above. Let's see if that helps. I shut off the LED light above as well. So we're only working with the light of the machine, and then there's another distant LED light over there, which seems to be working fairly well. Yeah, fairly well. All right, so let's do this next one. This next one's going to be the bird foot stitch. And if y'all want to come up with a different name for it, I am totally cool with that. I'm totally cool with that. All right, this next one. Should we go fast or should we go slow? Fast or slow? And again, Paula is a go-to it gal. So is Emma. Actually, all of our gals are. Cow country gals, they don't sit in the wings. They step forward and make things happen. So I'll see what Paula sends me, but I think it's going to be limited to this machine just because depending on how that light is coming out, it's going to cause diffusement issues. It just is. So we'll just work through it as best as we can. Give it up. I'm sorry I missed where you didn't want. just send it to me by text. Send me a link, Paula. That'll be great. All right, let's watch this walking foot again. I didn't get any responses far. Wait, I did from Emma. Emma said faster. So let's give this a try. And again, I'm not a fan, just so you guys know this, I'm not a fan of plastic bobbins. That's what the customer has in there. I would prefer, and I'm going to give this to her so she can try both of them, a plastic class 15 versus a metal class 15. And I think she'll probably end up going with a metal one. I think she will. Yeah. All right. Emma wants us to go fast. I'm going to go kind of middle of the road because we're dealing with a plastic bobbin doesn't spin quite as true as a metal one. So I don't want to create problems for us. All right. Who the heck cares? Let's just do it. Let's just do it. Here we go. Oh, wow. I like it. I got so excited. I sewed past it. Emma, you're making me crazy. What the heck? What the heck? Blah, 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 blah. So that's the one we just did right there, the bird foot one. I think that's an appropriate name, don't you? Yeah. You see the scope of what we've done already. Straight, we've done 3-point zigzag. We did 3 different flavors of blind hem. Then we did the mountain stitch. Then we did the whatever that one, the stretch stitch or the stepping stone stitch. Then we just did the other one that's kind of like a zigzag, but it's not. And then we did the bird foot one. Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. They make class 15s that are plastic too. Absolutely. Matter of fact, I think Walmart sells them. Walmart sells class 15s that are plastic. At least they did until they reduced their sewing center by like 80%. And now they're trying to push everybody to walmart.com and get them to buy everything, including bobbins and needles on walmart.com. But yeah, they sell all of that. So this is our bird foot one. Let's see if that turning the light on for the camera helps. That's our bird foot one that we just did. We spin it around. We'll look at the lock stitch on that. That's our lock stitch for the bird foot one. I think my customers hear you guys. My phone just went off. Is it 1 o'clock? No, it's not 1 o'clock yet. I got to look at this real quick, you guys. Hold on. Bear with me for a second. Stay right there. Stay right there. Oh no, that's Paula. Paula is sending me that link. Thank you, Paula. That was Paula sending me a text. And I've had a couple people. Is it weird? I got to ask you guys something. Is it weird that I feel comfortable enough with the Cow Country family that I give out my cell phone number? I don't think it's weird, do you? Yeah. So these are the ones we've done so far. That again is our top stitch. That is our lock stitch. Yeah. All right, let's go through the rest of these because it's getting later and later and later, and I'm concerned about the customer arriving early, early. Okay, let's do this next one. I don't even know what the next one is. We'll find out pretty quick. Okay, our next one is, let me turn this light on temporarily. Our next one, we just did the bird foot one. Now we're going to do, that almost looks like a sailboat, doesn't it? Does that look like a sailboat to you? Not, but the boat's missing. It's just a sail. You can kind of see what we're looking at, sort of, kind of. That's when I turn that little ring light on. That's kind of fun, isn't it? Light off, light on. And you can make it brighter too. Look at that. Okay. So we're going to do this one next. I'm going to refer to it kind of as, hold on a second. I'm going to refer to it as kind of a sailboat pattern, but there's no boat. It's just a sail. So I don't know what we do with that. This one right here, E, is the next one we're going to do. And then we're going to do G, which is kind of a combing stitch or something like that. And then finally, we're going to do H. Those are the ones that we have left. There we go. Now it finally focused. So we're going to be doing on the far right there, we're going to be doing E, G, and H. E, G, H. E, G, H. Yeah. Okay. Let's do it. So we're going to click this over to E. We're going to leave the setting here pretty much the same. I think we'll leave that pretty much the same for that. And now we're going to do this next stitch, the E stitch. Let's see what that one looks like. All right. Shut that off. Okay, let's do this next stitch. And I'll do this one slow. I'm not going to ask you guys about speed. I'm going to do this next one slower. We're getting into more and more intricate patterns with it culminating on H. And with that tri-motion, with it maneuvering this back and forth. And again, we have a plastic bobbin that doesn't spin. When they're dropping bobbins, they do pretty good. But when they're mounted vertically, like this one is in the bobbin case, they tend not to spin quite as true as a metal one. They're not as heavy. So I'm going to take this one a little bit slower, and we'll see what we think of this one. Take up arms all the way up. Let's rock and roll. And again, I hope we don't run out of bobbin thread. We might. Here we go. All right, let's see what we think of this one. Oh, yeah, that's kind of a fun one. It does look a little bit like a sailboat, sort of, kind of. It's kind of a pretty one. Clip these other threads on the other side. Okay, so this is the one we just did. This is our, turn that light on above me temporarily. We just did that one right there, the sailboat one. I'm going to call it a sailboat. we've done all of these on this live stream. That's, that's the difference between this channel is we like to show it. You know what I mean? We don't want to show still shots because that's no fun. You don't get a chance to see that walking foot do its dance. Turn it around. Let's look at the lock stitch. And here we're seeing, let's see, maybe it's just my eyes, but here it seems like that lock stitch. This is the lock stitch again. That last stitch we just did over here seems to be a little bit more darkened, doesn't it? It may just be my eyes, or it might be the camera angle. And again, I like never sew with black thread, so it just gives a different look to the stitch. But that could be a tension issue. I don't think it is. We're getting really good tension balance. Could be that we're not using an embroidery style needle either, and using some of these more ornate, decorative type stitches. But some really good looking stitching. Again, that's our top stitch. That's our lock stitch. All right, let's do, what do we have left? We got 2 more stitches left, 2 more stitches. Hopefully our bobbin thread holds out. 2 more stitches to do. All right, let's get that distance again. Right about there. Shut off my lights. Okay, so I'm going to off camera. I'm going to change this to G now. See that needle moving? That's why I say always keep your needle out of the fabric when you're making changes. All right, so I'm on G now. Now we're going to do the combing. I call it a comb stitch, but maybe you'll have a different name for it. You'll see what I mean by comb stitch when you see the machine sew it. Oh, and Paul is saying you can find any cell number by doing a Google search. So if anyone else wants to join me in texting high government officials, if someone finds me Joe Biden's or his vice president's cell number, I will text them. Now, I might be visited by the Secret Service, but some of those folks sew as well. I know this to be a fact. So I'll set them down, and maybe we can appease them by saying, all right, check out this machine. And then there won't be any arrests or anything like that. So, but I know what Paul is saying. The internet is very powerful, isn't it? It's very, very powerful in sourcing information. It just is. Very powerful. All right, let's do this next stitch. This is what I'm calling a comb stitch. We'll see what you guys think. All right, here we go. Yeah, Emma's calling it a shark fin. This one here. That does look like a shark fin, the one we just sewed. So the sailboat used to have a boat, but the shark attacked it, and now this is all that's, yeah, you guys know where I'm going with that. All right, let's sew this next one. We'll sew it at kind of a medium pace, but we're going to have a lot of tri-motion going on with the feed dogs manipulating the material. So I'm not going to go crazy with it, partly because we're dealing with a 90-14 needle. And if we're going to do a ton of this ornate decorative type stitching, we really want to bring that needle size down to somewhere between a 70 to an 80. And preferably a microtex or an embroidery needle is what we should be using, not a universal needle for this. But hey, we're rebels, right? We're rebels. All right, here we go. Stop right there. So you guys tell me what you think of this stitch as far as a name. I'm calling it kind of a comb stitch, but you might have a totally different name for it. All right. And we still have bobbin thread. That's a good thing because we only have one more stitch. One more stitch to do. One more stitch. Hopefully we can last it out. My fingers are really dry. I'm trying to get a hold of that thread. There we go. I kind of sewed over my other thread. Oh well. I made us an extra fin, and that's okay. So this is the stitch that we just did on the far right. And again, if you're joining the live stream late or you've kind of come and go back and forth or whatever, we started way over here at the beginning of this live stream doing a straight stitch. We went to a 3-point zigzag. We did 3 different types of blind hems. We did the mountain stitch. We did the stepping stone or the stretch stitch. We did this weird little stitch right there that looks kind of like a dark zigzag. We did the bird foot one. We did the sailboat or the shark fin. And then we finally did this comb stitch right here on the far right. So we really have run this machine through the paces to try to get a lot of different stitch output options for it. A lot of different stitch output options. And again, this is a machine that it's a little bit less than 2 years old. There's our lock stitch over here. Lock stitch, top stitch, lock stitch, top stitch. They're really good looking stitches. And again, this contemporary machine is not quite in the class of a Juki, but it's performing, I think, brilliantly. I think it's performing brilliantly, and it's managing some very, very difficult stitch pattern outputs. And again, ideally, we'd want to be stitching from about here over using a much smaller needle than we're using right now. The needle size, we're kind of working with a harpoon for delicate surgery when you're dealing with tri-motion action and you're dealing with a lot of needle swing. And the machine is still managing it incredibly well, in my opinion. It's managing it very, very well. Okay, let me get this underneath the presser foot. We have one more stitch to do, just one more stitch. And then we're going to wrap this up, partly because my customer will be here very shortly. All right, there we go. Got that in place, sort of, kind of. All right, let's get that lined up. Just looking at the chat real quick. Welcome to Freedom Force. Glasses are dirty. A net stretch stitch. Is that the next one that we're going to be sewing as a net stretch stitch, or the one that we just did, Paula? The one that I was calling a comb stitch, is Janome calling it a net stretch stitch? Oh, and the dark zigzag stitch, Paula is saying this one right over here. Paula is saying that Janome calls it a, where is it? Oh, I lost my place. Oh, she says it's called a rickrack stitch. That's kind of a fun word to say, isn't it, too? Rickrack sounds a lot better than a weird zigzag stitch, that's for sure. So, Paula, let's see. The one next to the blind hem, Janome calls a box stitch. Paula's jumping all over this. She must be like on the Janome website or something like that. Very cool. So you guys can know, I think it's good to know the proper names for stitches. I really do. But as busy as I am in the workshop getting through machines, and I love the classroom setting because I don't have to learn the proper names. All of you can learn the proper names, and then you can become co-teachers like Paula's doing right now and tell us what the proper names for these stitches. But I'm kind of inclined to like calling this the shark fin too. This one here, second to the end. I kind of like calling it a shark fin, don't you? Yeah. So Ricky Racky, we got Ticky Tacky, we've got Tic Tac Stitch. You guys remember the Tic Tacs? They used to come in those little plastic containers. Did anyone eat Tic Tacs like I did? I could eat 4 or 5 boxes of those Tic Tacs without even trying. Without even trying, I could do it. Our names are more interesting. Paula, Paula is a genius. And it's not just because she's from Florida. There's a lot of geniuses down in Florida because they don't live in Wisconsin where it gets to be so cold. But yeah, I like our names too. But Paula, thank you for doing that. Thank you for sharing with us the actual names for these stitches for Janome, what Janome calls them. Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of cool. It's kind of cool to know different names, isn't it? But it's also cool because in our classroom, you guys are in charge. We're in charge together. We lead the class together. I'm not some sort of autocratic sewing savant that says, do it my way or hit the highway. We learn together and we can come up with our own names for all of these stitches too, can't we? And that makes it fun. It makes it personal. And then we can learn the proper names as well. And we can decide, what do we want to use? Do we want to call it that or do we want to call it something else? Yeah. Yeah, let's do that. Let's have flexibility, especially on National Unicorn Day. We got to have some flexibility, right? Yeah, let's have flexibility on National Unicorn Day. Cool. I love it. All right, let's do this next one. Always love to get new people. Yeah, absolutely. A special welcome to Freedom X Force. That just sounds fun, doesn't it? It sounds like, you know what? If we connect with Freedom X Force, it sounds like we should probably do some sewing, but then we should go out and do paintballing. You know what I mean? We should definitely go out and do some paintballing. Anyone wants to come to Wisconsin, we'll find a paintballing place and we'll go out and do it. We'll come into the workshop. We can check some things out. You guys can check out some different machines. We'll do some different fun stuff, explore the workshop sort of a thing. And then we'll put on our gear, our camouflage gear, and we'll go out with Freedom X Force and we're going to do some paintballing. We just are. And I recently watched an older film with Robin Williams. I don't know. I told Emma about it. Emma, what was the name of that movie I told you I was going to watch? And I ended up watching it with Robin Williams. He plays a talk host that is critical and funny about politics. And then he goes on, because his audience tells him to do it, he goes on running for president. And because of a computer glitch, he ends up getting elected president of the United States. Robin Williams, can you imagine if Robin Williams were still living and he decided to run for the next presidential election? Wouldn't that be a hoot? Anybody remember the name of that movie? Oh, I can't remember the name of the movie. It's a great movie by Robin Williams. Okay, let's do this last stitch. Stitch H. And this one probably has a proper name as well. I always call it kind of a catacomb stitch, but I'm sure that's not what Janome would call it. Of course, since Janome is kind of based in China now, what can they do to me? What are they going to do? Like give me a thumbs down because I called their stitch the wrong name? It's worth it. It's totally worth it. All right, let's do this final stitch. Oh, Jiminy Crickets. Oh, see that? Look, see how close we're getting, you guys? Where is it? There it is. Oh, why did my phone go dark? That was scary. See that? Jackie at workshop. This is my 30-minute warning. But she'll be here early. I know. Oh, it went dark again. What the heck? So we got to get through this. We got to wrap this up. We got to do this last stitch that Janome probably has a very specific name for. A very specific name. Let me show you the stitch. And then Paula can tell us what Janome calls it. Where is it? It's all the way on the end there. See it? This one? That's the one we're doing next. I call it kind of a catacomb stitch, but I'm sure Janome wouldn't like that name. They would not like that name. They wouldn't like it. They'd probably get angry at me. Yeah, they would. All right, let's do this last one, you guys. Let's wrap this up. You know, the fun thing about, I got to just share this, and I got to give credit to all of you. Number one, because you're great students and you're great fellow teachers. We learn together. I've been doing this a long time, but I continue to learn. I continue to learn every day. And I can tell you that when it comes to our time together, we do live streams. We haven't done a premiere for a while. I got to do a premiere. Maybe I'll do a premiere about a certain sewing machine and somehow tie it to gumballs. I don't know how I would do that. I'm not sure how I would do that, but I could come up with something clever and tie a sewing machine to gumballs. I won't try sewing a gumball. That's a little bit, unless I do like a, maybe get a size 100 needle in there. I could maybe get away with, yeah, I won't do it. I won't do it. But we've already been together now for over 2 hours. Over 2 hours. And it doesn't seem like that to me. Our time passes so quick when we're together. Yes. God bless you, Emma. Man of the Year. Man of the Year. That's the movie I was trying to think of with Robin Williams. I was actually prepared to leave you guys for a second, go all the way up and find the DVD. But Emma saved me the trip. Thank you, Emma, for saving me the trip. The last one is Elastic Stretch Stitch. That's just boring. Janome is like a multi-billion-dollar company, probably, especially because they're finding ways to build the machines at a lesser cost. And the best they can come up with for this really sexy, this super sexy, cool catacomb triangle Egyptian pyramid, blah, blah, blah stitch. I mean, that's just a sexy, cool stitch. And the best they can come up with, and I trust Emma with my life. I trust Paula with my life. But they elastic stretch stitch? Poo-poo on that. We are not going to call this next stitch an elastic stretch stitch. Unless, we're not going to do it. That's just boring. That's boring. All right, let's do this last one. And we're going to kind of fluctuate speed a little bit. But watch this walking foot work. Watch that tri-motion action of the, what do we got? Yeah, fence stitch. I'll go with fence stitch. Fence stitch is so much better than that blah, 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 stretch, blah, 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 blah stitch. Yeah, I better not do that because I'm going to spit on Jackie's machine and I'll get in trouble. Yeah. All right, let's do this last one. And watch the tri-motion. It really is brilliant engineering to be able to cause the feed dogs to change motion very rapidly. It's basically actuating the pitman arm. The pitman arm will adjust the direction and flow of the machine so that you can reverse and you can move forward. And this engineering overrides that reverse function and engages it into the feed dog so that it very rapidly manipulates the direction. Watch it do its dance. And this is not an elastic stretch stitch. Okay, it's not. It's a fence stitch, or it's a catacomb, blah, 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 Egyptian pyramid, blah, 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 blah. All right, here we go. Yeah, go, baby, go. Turbo! Yeah, all right. Yeah. See that? That's not, you guys got to look at this one. Let me pull it out. Hold on a second. And we didn't run out of bobbin thread. Yay! Yay! All right, let me turn my light back on. There we go. Our light's back on. So the one on the far left, I think it's on the far left, is the last one we just did. That does look like a fence post. I agree with this, Susie. Susie is from Minnesota, and Minnesotans are very smart. That does look like a fence post. Or if you turn it this way, it almost looks like pyramids, doesn't it? Kind of looks like pyramids a little bit. Or a real peaky type mountain. But I'm going to go with fence post. I think that works. Yeah, I didn't even clip my threads yet. I got so excited. We're still attached. Help! All right, here, let me, hold on just a second. Let me clip the threads, and then I'll show this to you, and we'll wrap up this live stream. We're going to wrap it up because it's Saturday, and you probably have a lot of other things you have to do. and you have been a very good student. All of you get an A today. If one of the moderators would type an A into the chat so that the students have an official A on their official transcript record for class activity, then we're going to end with everybody being an A student today. Everybody's getting an A. They're getting an A. So these are the stitches we did on this live stream today. Isn't that fun? We ran this machine through the works. We started with a straight. We went through a 3-point zigzag. We did all kinds of blind hemi stitches. We did a mountain stitch. We did a, whatever Paula called that one. Where is it? Where'd it go? This one right here. It's got a weird name. I just called it a whatever. I think it's a rickrack or something. Or maybe that was a rickrack. I don't know. But that's a zigzag and then a bird footy and then the shark fin, but it has a different name according to Janome. And then we did the comb stitch, but that has a different name according to Janome. And then we did this last one that they wanted to have the audacity to call some sort of a stretch stitch. What is that about? That's not a stretch stitch. That's a fence. Whatever Susie called it. That's what it is. Oh, yeah. Palm tree. I like palm trees. Palm tree trunk. That's actually a really cool name too. See that? You can call stitches whatever you want. Oh my gosh, did Emma gave him an A+? Emma's grading on the curve. You guys you didn't just get an A, you got an A+. But this is my leadership team. If they want to give you an A+, doggone it. If Paula wants to give you a hall pass, she can do it. If Veronica's here, if she wants to give you guys a whatever, I mean, we lead this channel together. Yeah, we do. All right, let's look at the lock stitch because we're running out of time. There's our lock stitch. And again, the lock stitch is always a little bit more difficult to generate because that needle has to sweep down, grab that thread, complete that lock stitch, and pull it all the way back up again. It takes a lot more effort, a lot more timing. Yeah, it does. Lock stitch, top stitch, lock, top, lock, top. I feel like I should do like a I don't know, like a rap beat or something like that to this. I could do a TikTok video and just going back and forth like this. That's what they do on TikTok. It's just like a quick little blip, and then you're done. Yeah. I don't remember what the top stitch is anymore. But at any rate, beautiful stitching from this Janome Model 731. There she is right there. Model 731. I'm going to turn all my lights back on because we're done stitching now, and the camera can be as naughty as it wants. So again, you know what? For the longest time, I was kind of, if not anti-contemporary machine, I was very cautious about contemporary machines. And because of Joann's in Marinette, Wisconsin, being a partner with me now, and they've been sending me their customers. This machine was bought at Joann's less than 2 years ago, and it experienced a couple of challenges. And we're not surprised by that, are we? Because even as they improve their standards, because we're putting more and more pressure on them through the vintage sewing machine space, we're putting more and more pressure on them saying, make the machines better. You're charging $600 for this machine at Joann's. Doggone it, you better build it better, because it's not fair to Jackie to spend some big bucks on a machine and not have it last. So they're starting to listen to us. At least we're going to believe that. They're listening. They're watching this live stream right now in the shadows saying, what is Scott and Paula and Emma and Bill and Joelle and Susie and all the other folks in that live chat, what are they concerned about? We need to be concerned about the same things. Doggone it. Yeah. We're powerful as an army of vintage sewing machine enthusiasts because we can influence the market. Yeah, we can. And so they're starting to generate better machines. Juki is doing the same thing. I wish Singer would be a little bit more concerned about what we're saying, because they're still not building machines to the standard that Janome and Juki are. They're not. And they need to start doing it, because some of their machines, if you go to the shelf or if you go to Walmart.com or some of the other sites, they're charging some big bucks for these machines that they're still building And they, I'm referring to Singer or whatever is Singer now. They're still building them as disposable machines. How do I know that? Because I get that feedback from Barbara Finger. Barbara Finger, remember, she was one of our gold ticket finders in that fundraiser we did for the Oconto Area Humane Society. She interfaces with customers all the time, working in the fabric department for Walmart in Marinette, Wisconsin. And she says, Scott, I get customers all the time that will come in and their warranty just expired and the machine I'm trying to do an explosion. I'm not doing well at it. But Singer needs to step alongside Janome and Juki and a few other select manufacturers that are finally hearing our voice and saying, we're always going to love vintage sewing machines more, but doggone it, build your contemporary machines better. Build them better. And they're finally starting to, some of these manufacturers like Janome and Juki are saying, okay, we're a little bit afraid of Scott, but we're really afraid of Paula and Emma and Veronica. Those cow country gals, we do not want to, all right, take the grandkids out of the room. I'm going to say a word. And if the leaders want to throw me into the penalty box, doggone it, I'm going to do it anyway. You don't want to piss off cow country girls. You don't want to do it. Don't do it. So you better listen to Paula and Veronica and Emma and Susie and Joelle and other ladies that are leading the way saying, build the contemporary machines better. Build them 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 better. You got to do it. Doggone it. Because you know what, making me a little bit upset. I get upset sometimes. But you better stay on the good side of these ladies. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say. Yeah. All right. How about some Japanese style music? Because the roots of Janome are Japanese. Give me some Japanese music. Please, please, please. What is this? Oh, Asian drum. Oh, I lost it. Where'd it go? Asian drums. I want to do that one. Asian drums something. Yes, here we go. We almost went. We were on the edge of going. Come on, guys, get excited with your drums. Everybody's waiting for your drums. All right. I will end the live stream shortly. Go ahead and keep chatting, meet some new people. Paula wrote something. I agree with you, Susie. I would never stitch on leather with a newer Singer. Yeah, I hate to say it, but I agree. After going through this Janome, I was comfortable in doing that with this this genuine elk hide. But I'll be honest with you, I think I would, yeah, I would break it. I would totally break a Singer machine. Singer, you need to step it up. Otherwise, I'm going to let loose the fury. I'm going to let loose the fury of all the cow country gals. They're going to be picketing outside of your building. We're going to buy tickets and fly over wherever you're building these things, and we're going to stay out there till you change your ways, Singer. You got to step up with some of the other manufacturers. You just got to do it. You got to do it. Yeah, you do. Oh, that I meant that light to be on. There we go. My needs are simple: good straight stitch, zigzag buttonhole stitch, and stretch stitch, and I'm good to go. Yeah, Paula's a simple gal, sort of. Yeah, she is. My heavy duty Singer sews through wood. Heavy duty Singer sews through leather and lead. Now, who believes that Paula has actually sewed lead on her Singer? Are you referring to your 401A that I prepared for you that you donated to the fundraiser to get? Is that the Singer, or is it a different Singer that you're talking about, Paula? Yeah, we are a powerful force, you guys. Never doubt the power of our movement. We got a movement going. Singer's going to have to either step up, or Janome and Juki and others that are starting to build their machines to a higher quality standard, they're going to leave Singer in the dust. They just are. Singer's left in the dust. Yeah, I would not try. See that? I would not try that. Yeah, I wouldn't sew this on a Singer. I just wouldn't. And if we did, we wouldn't get good stitch quality like we are here. Yeah, it wouldn't happen. That was such a short, boring song. I expected some cool drums. Come on, guys. Give us something good to wrap this up to. Ooh, that's a fun one. This will be our ending song, you guys, our ending song. Have a great Saturday. God bless you. Thanks for watching Jackie's Janome Model 731. Available, or at least it was available 2 years ago at Joann's. And thank you to Joann's as well. I know a number of their people, including their store manager, watch our channel. And I'm saying our channel because it's our channel. And so hello to Joann's as well. And hello to Joann's all around the country because they're everywhere. They are also a powerful force. Joann's, as they've expanded their footprint, not just to sewing, but to every craft and notion need that anyone could have. Yeah. And look at this machine. Boy, did it deliver. Yeah, it did. Beautiful, beautiful stitching. All right, Jackie, I'm done. I'm done. You arrive right now. I'm ready. I'm ready, Jackie. I'm Jackie. Yeah. All right. All right, I'm going to start putting stuff away so I'm all set. Oh, I was going to do that. Oh, gumdrops. Ha-ha! I'm going to do it now. I'm going to totally do it. I wanted to sew protected full grain leather too, just to really rub Singer's face in the fact that we would never sew leather on one of their contemporary machines. We sewed elk hide. We also have to sew protected full grain leather. And I should totally do it with one of the decorative stitches, just to really rub it in. Rub it in. Yeah. What should I do? I could do the shark fin one, the comb one. I could do the bird foot one. That would be a fun one. Let me cut this in half real quick. We'll do 2 layers of this. Why are these so short? Is it like a thing that Japanese songs have to be short? Come on, guys, give us something. Ooh, Eastminster. That sounds fun. Yeah. All right, 2 layers of protected full grain leather. I got to get this done quick. Boy, I didn't cut that too evenly, did I? That's kind of, yeah. Use your imagination. You guys are smart. All right, let's do a decorative stitch on, did I run out of bobbin thread? No, not yet. Not yet. I'm really close probably. All right, let's get that in place. Right there, back to back. Yes. Okay, now I'm dealing with a heavier material, 2 layers of that instead of a single. Should I change my upper tension just a little bit to define that lock stitch? I'm going to bump it up to 4.5 just temporarily. 4.5. We're going to go up just a little bit. I hope I don't steal away from the top stitch. Don't steal from the top stitch. Okay. Now what stitch should I do? What stitch should I do? I want to do one of these to really rub it in Singer's face. Birdfoot, sailboat, comey stitch, or this one over here, the catacomb stitch. What do you guys think? D, E, G, or H? Type a letter in the chat. D, E, G, or H. I'm not even over there. There we go. D, E, G, or H. 2 layers of protected full grain leather. D, E, G, or H. All right, come on. If you don't type something, I'm just going to pick one. I'm going to pick it. I'm going to be a rebel. All right. Paula is saying do D. Paula said do D. Oh my gosh. Susie said H. What do I do? What do I do? D and H, D and H, D and H, D and H, D and H. I'm going to do both. I'm going to do both. What we're going to do, though, is we're going to cheat and kind of turn it over because this is wider on this side because I cut it so crooked. Let's put it right there. We'll do D and then we'll do H. All right, here goes. This is to rub Singer's face in the fact that they're not building to the standard of Janome and Juki. Step it up, Singer, Oh, we're going to continue to beat you up. We're going to continue to do it. D and H, D and H, D and H, D and H, D, H. D, there we go. All right. All right, let's do the D and then we'll do the H. Here we go. Take up arm all the way up. I hope we don't run out of bobbin thread. Here we go. Let's do this. Let's do this. No hand start. 2 layers of protected full grain leather on this Janome Model 731. Here we go. Ooh, did you see that pause? Did you see that pause? Holy mackerel, we are fighting some thick leather here. Stop. Oh, that's sexy. Look at that, you guys. Look at that black against the blue. Oh, that's exciting. All right, let's do the other one real quick. D and H, we need to do the, oh, is that, am I out of bobbin thread? No, not yet. I started to pull like it was at the end of the spool. We might run out. We might run out. Look at that. Isn't that gorgeous? I'm glad I bumped up that upper tension a little bit. Beautiful balance. Top stitch, lock stitch. Top stitch, lock stitch. The customer's here, you guys. Jackie's here. Oh my gosh. Oh gosh. Oh boy. You hear Hank? Hank is barking. Jackie's here. Oh gosh. We got to do this quick, you guys. We got to do it quick. We got to do it quick. She's going to text me any second. I'll say, I'm here. I'm here. Okay, let's do H. Wait a second. Hank, tell Jackie I'll be there in a second. I got to do Paula's stitch. H. Okay, here we go. Take up arm all the way up. Oh, good gravy. Good gravy. H, here we go. That is, you see, it hits that and it's like, oh my gosh, are you crazy? Are you out of your mind? Stay there, bobbin thread. Stay there. We believe in you. We believe in you, bobbin thread. Stop. Take up arm up. Oh, ladies, I love you. Great choice. Did I spit on that? No, that's something else. Look at that. Look at that last one that Paula wanted to see, and then look at the bird one. Those are gorgeous. Let's look at them closer. All right, let me bring the thread back. Pull that real quick. Hold on a second. Oh, Hank was reacting to something else. I don't think that is Jackie yet. It's still a little bit before 1. We got time to work with, but this is exciting, isn't it? Okay, so this is the one we just did. We just did this one. And again, through 2 layers of protected full grain leather, never would I try this on a Singer contemporary machine. Wouldn't do it. Aren't those? And those are the perfect stitches to pick to display on this blue background, weren't they? Great job, Susie. Great job, Paula. Beautiful stitching. Now let's look at the lock stitch. Any difference? No, it's gorgeous. It's absolutely, let me turn my light on. It's absolutely gorgeous stitching. That's our lock stitch right there. The bird footy one, and then the other, whatever that stretchy thing was. We had to do it, you guys. We had to do it. Just to rub it in Singer's nose. Yeah. Hold on, Hank. Beautiful. Beautiful job. All right, I'm going to put these. Oh, yeah, they're here. They're here. Jackie's here. Jackie's here. All right. You guys have a great afternoon. I'm going to end this live stream pretty doggone quick here. Again, Jackie's Janome Model 731, powered by a 0.7 amp motor, and that is Jackie texting that she's in the driveway. Yes, she's here. All right, take care, everybody. Beautiful stitching here. Beautiful stitching here. All right, have a great rest of your Saturday. God bless. I gotta go, gotta go. Okay, remember the live stream will stay active if anybody's chatting. Take care, everybody. Bye.